This is easily the most fun and underrated ranger build I've played. It's cheap as hell, clearing giga-juiced maps with only a few divines. It's fast, screen-wide clearing with just one press of a button. It clears all the pinnacle content with ease. So easy, in fact, that with a simple ascendancy swap, you're one of the best pinnacle killers in the game. It's tanky, of course, and with just the press of a button, you can run all the chilled ground and temporal chains maps again because you can't be slowed. Oh, and the best part, explosions, obviously. It's Poison Pathfinder, baby, and it's your new favorite build. But first things first, how does it actually function? Firstly, it's all about poisons. And with the Pathfinder Ascendancy, you're spreading poisons better than your wife spreading herpes in the 90s. When mapping, you simply press Poison Burst Arrow for a huge poison explosion, and it's then spread to all nearby enemies via contagious contamination that in itself spreads the poisons further, allowing the poisons to propagate themselves, basically like herald chaining, but easier. And in case you run into any rough elites or bosses, you just bust out a few toxic growths and they'll die instantly. And speaking of poisons, you definitely need to know how they work before playing the build. Because thing is, they don't scale like any elemental build would. Firstly, only physical and chaos damage hits will trigger our poisons. But that's not really a downside. Seeing that all the gear that we need, that is, physical and chaos damage gear, is what any other build would deem to be completely bricked, meaning they're cheap as fuck. But once you've applied the poisons, you can't really scale it via your gear. Rather, you're scaling the physical and chaos damage hits, and then you'll have to find other ways of scaling the poison. And that's why the Pathfinder is a necessity. It's the only ascendancy with a bunch of nasty poison nodes. On top of that, while we can't really scale the poison damage in itself, we can in fact scale its duration, and we can increase its magnitude via the passive tree and jewels, where I'm not sure I need to mention this because you probably already figured this out, but these jewels are cheap as fuck. Then, we can also increase the number of poisons that can be applied to your enemies at once, up to 6 poisons at once, only possible as a Pathfinder. Combine all of this, and you have one hell of a build. But there are a few more important interactions you must know about before slapping the build together, so let's check out the gems and what's going on there. I'll mention both how you can get an ultra-budget version online for only 1 or 2 divines, along with a medium-budget version for some extra speed. But first, a word from today's sponsor, me. Drop a sub, you dog. And if you can afford it, consider becoming a member, because then I'll always be able to see and respond to your questions first. You'll be able to get early access to videos, play with yours truly, and more. Oh, and I'll be able to actually create more videos. With that said, let's get back to the gems, starting with Poison Burst Arrow. As we talked about earlier, this is our main mapping ability. But we're also going to use it to blow up our toxic growth and apply poisons to our vine arrows using this. And the best way to do this is to utilize the Nova Projectile's gem. Sure, it lowers our damage by 40%, but we're going from 1 to 4 arrows, allowing us to get one hell of a damage multiplier here along with screen-wide poison applications. On top of that, when we throw down our toxic growth, we can blow up most, if not all of them at once, for some strong poisons. To apply stronger poisons, we're using Deadly Poison 2, Arakali's Lust, which is basically always maxed out, pinpoint critical, because crit is one of the few multipliers we can use, Defy 2, which is our main source of mana cost reduction in this version, allowing us to spam our abilities with 0 mana cost, as long as we have the Constricting Command helmet. Not having this is not an issue at all, though, because you'll just grab a mana leech roll somewhere on your gear and have some of your physical damage skills generate mana for you. Next, we have our Toxic Growth, which is our main damage dealer on bosses and rough elites. You drop it down, shoot it once, have it explode, and repeat. We boost it further via concentrated area, making it smaller and easier to hit as well as granting it damage. Long Fuse for additional damage. Defy 2 for making it spammable with 0 mana, and we're also gaining a lot of extra damage since it has the chance to roll its damage twice between this span. We then have Heft, because its initial hit deals physical damage before it poisons. And finally, Swift Affliction for more poison damage. After that, it's time for our Tornado Shot. Dropping this on top of your toxic growth on bosses will double your projectiles and allowing for all of the toxic growths to explode. We also use it to blind the bosses and rituals, which is only where I'm using this skill. Overabundance to get an additional one, Defy again, Magnified Area as to make it easier to hit, and finally Multi-Shot so that I won't have to shoot it twice to get 2 of them out. When it comes to the rower, you don't actually have to use this in this build, because when running Pathfinder, you can get 50% less movement speed penalty from the Ascendancy, some additional from the passive tree, and you're already without any movement speed penalty. You could then replace it by grabbing a haste or a companion, as long as you grab these spirit cost reduction nodes in the passive tree. So, why am I using the Roe then? Well, shit. For starters, it's cheaper than the haste aura pet, allowing me to save 2 passive skills, along with 1 ascendancy nodes, and all the other nodes I would need to get reduced movement speed penalty. But using the Roe, it's also possible to drop all of your poison burst arrows right on top of your feet on bosses. This is not possible without it. For some damage reduction, we use Loyalty, which you'll have to slot in before Brutus's Brain. Then, we're using one hell of a skill, Ravenous Swarm, because I want to blind as much as possible to get that sweet, sweet accuracy penalty on my enemies and making sure they don't hit me. We'll just use the blind support on Ravenous Swarm, and also we can have them culling strike enemies, finishing off pinnacle bosses with ease. To get more coverage, we then use Prolonged Duration, Magnified Area, and Overabundance. All of these combined, and most enemies around you will be getting hit by the swarm. After that, it's time for Vine Arrow. And this one's important for the Poisonous Concoction if you want to run that version, as that is currently bugged and can scale poison damage like crazy. I'll link that one in the description. For my version, though, it's used on bosses to apply additional poison damage. You simply drop 2 of them on top of your enemies, and it'll deal damage. And when you shoot it, it deals even more damage. As with the other skills, we have Defy, along with Deadly Poison for damage, Prolonged Duration for damage, Swift Affliction for, well, damage, and Overabundance for an additional one, for of course more damage. When it comes to the final skills, I'm using Wind Dancer and Ghost Dance while mapping, and then I swap to Blasphemy in my weapon, set 2 for Chaos Penetration when doing pinnacle bosses. This is entirely optional though. I'm doing this because I'm lazy and don't want to manually cast it. Either way, you're going to want the usual blind and maim supports along with AoE in Wind Dancer for when you actually get hit, and Ghost Dance to regenerate your energy shield when hit as well. As the build is currently set up, I'm losing a lot of energy shield running the surrounded helmet, but I get a lot of movement and attack speed. Skip this, and you'll have a buttload of energy shield that you'll regenerate instantly via Ghost Dance. And finally, Blasphemy, allowing for self-casting Chaos Penetration, which will boost via Magnified Area and Heightened Curse for some additional magnitude, and AoE. Great job, friends. Gems complete. Let's check out the gear I'm currently rocking, and some options if you're dog shit at the game and don't have a divine to your name yet. When it comes to the gear, you'll want the Constricting Command Helmet if you want speed and damage, which, let's face it, we all do. You do, however, need to roll a 5 here or it's useless. Using this, you'll count as surrounded, allowing you to utilize all the surrounded nodes in the tree and gems. It does, however, cost a few divines, so if you don't have it, then you simply grab a helmet with as much energy shield as possible, as you can then combine this with Subterfuge Mask for upwards of at least 600 evasion on top of the energy shield you already got from the helmet. Then we have the weapon. This one's craftable for 1 or 2 divines. You'll find a link in the description. You'll always get 5 out of 6 good mods crafting it, and you can also craft another bow with 6 good mods with lots of additional attack speed. But that one will have extra chaos damage on it, so you're probably not going to be able to sell it if you decide to swap builds later on. I'll link that one in the description as well though. When it comes to the quiver, this one's almost what you want. If you were to grab increased bow damage instead of fire damage, then it'd be a great quiver. The only flat damage you can use here is physical damage, so it should be cheap finding or crafting a similar one. Personally though, I'm only using this high damage quiver for bossing. When mapping, I just love rocking the Kadiro's Gambit. It can roll 6 different rolls when you hit enemies with your arrows, and seeing as you shoot 5 arrows per poison burst, you're nearly getting one of each on average. We have Crescendo, granting a bunch of chains, Splinter, splitting your arrows, reversing that pierces and returns my arrows back to me Diamond, which is a huge crit bonus and my personal favorite, Covetous, Geiger juicing my rarity when that arrow kills stuff, and blunt arrows of course, but that one's ass. For the amulet, the absolute most important stat is 35 spirit. Having this, you can use all of the skills in the build. Other than that though, any defensive or crit stats are great, but should be on a lower prio than projectile skills. I then anoint Patient Barrier for additional defense. When it comes to the rings, you're just going to craft or purchase 2 bricked rings. And with bricked, I mean chaos damage, chaos resistance, and flat physical damage. No one wants them, so they're cheap as fuck. Then you quality those bad boys up with chaos bonuses, just a heads up. The increased chaos damage here does not increase your poison damage, but if you have sockets and jewels with gain damage as extra chaos damage, then you can increase your hit chaos damage, and this actually works with increased chaos damage. Cool, huh? Yeah. And finally, your armor is all about defense. Mixing evasion, energy shield, and resistances. Follow that up with some sweet, flat physical damage and attack speed for extra damage, along with movement speed on your boots, and you're good to go. The only thing here you can't really get on a low budget is the boots, due to the expensive runes. But in that case, you go for a pair of boots with 35% movement speed and call it a day. And of course, don't forget a lot, and I mean a lot of evasion on your chest, because Bestial Skin will double it for you for a huge defensive layer, and you can also get increased evasion rating from equipped body armor desecration on your amulet. Finally, the charms are all about stun and freeze, and Olroth's Resolve is great if you can afford it. But it's not mandatory at all. Hey, will you look at that? It's already skill tree of fucking clock, or actually passive tree, but skill tree oh fucking clock just sounds a whole lot better. In this one, we're covering the passive tree with the surrounded helmet. If you don't have it, then it's extremely similar, but we'll ditch all of the passives over here in Narnia, as they only work with the helmet. Other than that though, mainly the same. We also have a weapon set 1 and 2 here, where I'm using weapon set 1. That is the pink nodes for mapping and the green ones for nuking down pinnacle bosses, as the former has more movement speed, the latter more damage. And finally, just one final note regarding the Ascendancy. Here, I'm rocking practical remedies and sustainable practices as to be nearly immune to elemental damage. But when running the annoying ass Chilled Ground and Temporal Chains maps, I go for Traveler's Wisdom or Running Assault, along with Relentless Pursuit to become fast as fuck boy. Alright, with that said, the ones you'll always use are Contagious Contamination, which is basically a free herald of plague, along with overwhelming toxicity to more or less double your damage. Then we head off to grab either the damage nodes, the attack speed ones, or the evasion. depending on what you prefer. After that, some big-ass poison magnitude nodes along with maiming all poisoned enemies, followed by grabbing the extra quiver bonuses. If you don't have the surrounded helmet, then you'd also grab this cluster, as you will now have enough quiver bonuses to gain an extra skill rank from your quiver. We keep moving downwards, grabbing some movement speed, damage, and are from nothing where we want eternal youth, as we can then grab this cluster up here, which is huge for our survivability when we have a Giga evasion chest. After that, move down to grab feathered fletching, so that we may use projectile speed as a damage multiplier, along with some movement speed, before grabbing all of the surrounded nodes for insane amounts of evasion, attack speed, damage, and health regen. Next, we fuck off to Uganda, grabbing the companion nodes up here, allowing us to gain both damage from our companion and allow ourselves to reduce its cost. Then, Bestial's skin doubles our chest evasion. We have a large crit cluster here, along with a damage against dazed enemies, which we want to combine with an Against the Darkness jewel with extra chaos damage. And finally, we have another poison magnitude and duration cluster, along with yet another poison cluster here, allowing us to stack up those big-ass poisons for millions of damage. And with that, we're done with this shit. Time to get good and learn how to play this magnificent build. When mapping, it's easy peasy. Shoot your poison burst arrows and everything should die. And if they don't, then you drop a toxic growth on their sorry asses and they will. Doing rituals, you can also drop down a tornado shot and some vine arrows, and you'll be able to get a lot of extra clear for more points. When it comes to bossing, we do a few changes. We now want to make sure that we either cast Despair to reduce the boss's chaos resistance ourselves, or automatically using the Blasphemy Persistent Gem. Then we combine this with dropping 2 vine arrows on top of the boss, along with a tornado shot, a toxic growth, and then we press our poison burst arrow. After that, it's all about alternating poison burst arrow and toxic growth until the fucker is dead. Easy, huh? Damn right. And with that, we're done. Drop a sub, consider becoming a member, and I'll see you in the next one. Friend.
So long, gay boys!